a book about tragedy, compassion, and faith, a visit from our ace gardener, and some informative facts of when nutritional habits begin. All that and more is coming right up, and I hope you'll stay tuned.
Providing entertainment for over 25 years, WALA-TV presents a tradition in Mobile, the Dot Moore Show. Once again, Dot Moore.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're always glad you're there. And today we'll hear from author Gary Penley about his book titled Della Rae. It's an informative, interesting, strong story. Also, a visit from our ace gardener, Marty Burrow, with some innovative ideas for your home garden and more. But right now, our feature fashion on location. Today we're in Daphne, Alabama, across the bay from Mobile. We're at the U.S. Sports Academy, where they train many, many people in the sports, and they're very strong proponents of sports art. You'll find one section of this building devoted to sports art, and very often they have visitors to the city who display famous artworks of the sport world. And behind me or beside me here is a magnificent bronze sculpture of a sports figure, which is the epitome of the Academy's profession. This courtyard can also be used at leisure for students in between classes. And our feature fashion today is in the happy color, yellow. It's that combination of cotton and dacron, a very cool fabric and a very usable, washable fabric. If you want to dress it up with a scarf, fine. If you don't, remove your scarf, and you have a very sporty looking outfit that could go anywhere with a convertible collar. I have it buttoned up. If you prefer it, you can open it up more. With long sleeves and full cut in the happy color. And our fashion is courtesy of Holiday on Old Shell Road in Spring Hill. In this report, we learn how to start and when it all begins to take on understanding for nutritional habits to form. Here's more on the subject.
A healthier family may start before conception, with both parents eating well and taking supplements to be sure they have all the nutrients they need. There are 5 steps dads-to-be can take to improve their overall health and maximize their chances of starting a family. First, eat a healthy diet with at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Second, take vitamin C. Besides boosting the immune system, vitamin C is essential to the development of normal sperm. If you smoke, quit. If you drink, do so moderately, since alcohol can decrease sperm production. Fifth, take a nutritional supplement such as Proxseed. This supplement has been shown in clinical studies to optimize sperm count, concentration, motility, and speed. For more information, visit www.proxeed.com or call 1-888-PROXSEED.
Well, America, it seems, encompasses many interesting marine reserves. However, there is one that has been designated the largest one in the country. And in this report, we learn more about that.
A remote area known as the Tortugas, 80 miles west of Key West, Florida, has been designated the nation's largest marine reserve. This will preserve the healthiest coral in the region and the richness of species and health of fish stock in the Tortugas and throughout the Florida Keys. The spectacular area called the Tortugas Ecological Reserve is part of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. The new reserve encompasses more than 150 square miles of spectacular deepwater corals and critical fish spawning sites. It will consist of 2 areas, Tortugas North and Tortugas South, and each fully protects all marine life, including fish, coral, shrimp, and lobster. To learn more about our nation's marine sanctuaries, visit the NOAA website at www.sanctuaries.nos.noaa.gov.
Welcome back. My first guest is an author on tour with his book titled Della Rae, A Girl Who Grew Up in Hell and Emerged Whole. A remarkable author, a remarkable book. Please welcome Gary Penley. Gary, it's a pleasure to see you, and you're on quite a long tour with this book. This is a remarkable story of a courageous woman. But first of all, before we get into the story, let me ask you this. What really motivated you to write the book? Were you acquainted with her family, or how did the...
Yes, one of her sons is one of my lifelong friends, but I had known him for over 20 years when he told me about his mother. I only knew that his mother lived in Alabama. He lives in Houston. One day, his name is Donnie Hughes. Donnie said to me, the two of us were driving down the road, he said, "My mother grew up in a mental institution," and that's kind of a showstopper. And I said, "What did you say?" So he continued to tell me. And it turns out that his knowledge was very sketchy of her life at that time, because for 50 years she wouldn't talk to family or friends about it, even though they knew, but they knew no details.
Well, you know, it's such a remarkable story about a child who was put into a mentally deficient institution when age 4. In reading the book, I was so interested, and it's odd, but many members of her family were mentally deficient and were committed at the same time. And the reason they were put in there was what?
In the early half, in the first half of the 20th century, many people got put in mental institutions that didn't belong there. And what happened in Della Rae's case was a classic guilt by association. Scientists at that time believed that anyone who was even related to a mentally retarded person carried the genes. They were called eugenicists. The eugenics movement was trying to lock people up. They even sterilized some people, and they thought they could wipe out retardation. They were wrong in their theories, but they had not yet been proven wrong.
But in other words, it was easy to get someone committed as opposed to today with
it was, and
methods.
When they were committed, it was hard to get out. It was nearly impossible to get out, as a matter of fact.
I was so taken with the fact that this child who grew up in that atmosphere, that was really, it's a story of the Great Depression in '29, right? Came out of it now and is a grown woman, of course, and built a life. Tell me about, what do you think is about the strongest message this book has for people?
I think one of the messages that that the book has is that the human spirit really is indomitable. It is obviously not in everyone. But in this case, and in many cases that we've seen in concentration camps, which this was much akin to, the human spirit really can be indomitable. And the power of faith and the power of forgiveness. There are several messages in here. Della Rae, when she was middle-aged, had beat the system, had actually gotten out and built a life for herself. Chose to exorcise her own demons and get rid of her anger and bitterness. And she did this by actively forgiving the people who had tormented her and tortured her as a child.
Well, that certainly wasn't easy to do. It's remarkable. Let's take a look at some of the pictures in the book.
All right.
If you'll tell us what we're seeing here, because you have quite a few.
These are 3 pictures of Della Rae. The upper left is a picture when she was 17 years old in the institution, the same picture that's on the cover. The upper right is Della Rae when she was 26, about 2 years after she got out. The lower picture is Della Rae at middle age. This is Della Rae, middle-aged, fixing the hair of one of her stepdaughters in her own beauty shop. This is Della Rae and Floyd Hughes, her husband, shortly after they got married. They got married 3 years after she got out. This is Della Rae in 1999 at the door to her beauty shop, which she still runs in her 70s. This is one of the old buildings at Partlow. There are only 2 of the original buildings left. Partlow, the institution where she grew up. This is the old administration building.
Well, the amazing part is she now resides in Tuscaloosa, is still in the beauty business, and has children that she's raised. When she had that in the background, but what you brought out, the forgiveness, is probably what we all need to learn more of.
It's what we all say we should do, and what we sometimes try to do. Della Rae is one of the few that ever actually did it. She went to nursing homes, hospitals, and visited these people weekly, the people who had been cruel to her. She visited them every week, brought them things, made things for her and for them, and did that as long as they lived.
That is amazing.
That is
because
amazing.
you know, so often people want to shut things out, but she wanted to give.
She knew she couldn't be a whole person unless she did that.
And it's a true story, and it's just it was quite interesting to me, and I wish you well. How's the book going?
The book is going quite well.
Yeah.
Della Rae is an amazing person. She was on 4 signings with us in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. She's a delight.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and you're in the midst of your tour, but you live in Texas.
We live in a suburb of Houston. Yes. We're on a 12-city tour.
Okay, well, real quickly, is there another book in Gary Penley?
Yes, there is another book in Gary Penley.
Oh, you're working on it.
It's actually been written. It's the rough draft is finished. It is not published yet, but watch for it. It will be.
Okay, maybe we'll see you again.
Great.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
This is really a book with a message, and a strong one. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Say hello to Marty Burrow, our ace gardener. Marty, how are you?
Hi, Dot. How are you? I'm fine.
Fine. This time of the year, you're just dying to get some pretty flowers in the garden. Do you think it's too early?
Well, it's not Easter yet.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's some stuff that you can plant right now, like the tulips, for one. You know, is because a lot of people already had the bulbs in the ground anyway, so they're coming up and starting to sprout anyway. So these are fairly safe to plant right now as long as we don't have a real hard freeze.
They're such rich colors, aren't they, tulips?
And such a different variety of colors also.
Yes.
You know, so you can just about pick any
what
color
are
that you need to
all
match.
these things? Bird houses.
Being coming up spring, and people want to try to attract birds to their garden, the easiest way to do it is to have birdhouses and bird feeding stations and bird baths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like this right here is a terracotta little bird feeder. You just hang it with this little hook right here, put a little seed in there, and then that attracts some of your smaller birds in there to feed.
That's real decorative, yes.
Right. And then also you've got the same look, but for like a little wren house. Okay, for like a small wren. You know, so if you wanted to try to coordinate your patio or something like that, that gives you 2 that look very much alike. And then we've also got some of the wooden birdhouses like this that are real decorative, that look kind of like a barn.
Look at that.
You know, so they're very decorative on them like that. And also too,
bird barn.
Right, see, it's got a loose bottom to where you can take it out and clean it each year. You know, so that way the bird nest itself doesn't build up year to year. And then we've got
that has a spire on that. It looks like a church.
It's got the long top on it, you know, which is a very decorative wren house also.
I like that, and the roof is impressive.
Right, and then that's actual little copper plates too.
Let's show the roof to that camera. Yeah, I like that.
Right, but it's got the cedar shingles, you know, to give you a little bit different design. You know, so she's got several different styles of birdhouses over there to choose from. You know, I just brought a few of them to look. Now this here is an actual bird feeder, a very decorative bird feeder. Okay, it's got the cork on the bottom. Okay, and you just pull it out, fill it up, and then the seed comes out the holes on each side. So that gives you a little bit of decoration there, and it's got the little spiral, you know, to add
a little bit dressier than the others.
Some of the other feeders.
Okay, let's talk about these herbs.
All right, this is one of the big herb gardens that we've got over there, and this has like your parsley. It's got sage, it's got coriander, it's got thyme, it's got lavender. You know, is pretty much self-sufficient because it's all planted in dirt, and you just use the Sierra tabs for fertilize, and you don't have to fertilize it about every 3 or 4 months with those. You know, so it's a safe box, and it's a long box too, so you could even mount it outside your window if you wanted to.
You know, I really don't know anything about raising herbs, but do you keep them rather damp, or do they require little water, or what?
Damp but not wet. Now this is lavender. Here, give that a smell.
Great.
And see that you can take the leaves and dry it and use it for like one of those little potpourri things like you put in your laundry, your lingerie.
I notice you have a bloom on this
Right.
one.
This is coriander or cilantro, whichever you want to say. You know, one is the seed name, one is the plant name. But this is also what you use to cook with too, and it's very fragrant also just by squeezing it.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And then it also has chives down on the end, and then you have thyme right there too, and then of course your oregano. You know, so it's got a good variety. And then this is sage here. You know, which it's
Well,
quite
this
strong.
parsley is really thick and pretty.
Right. Now your parsley tends to like cooler weather along with your lavender, so these do, you know, real good at this time of year. And then behind it I've got some of the geraniums, the different colors.
Yeah, they're very popular.
You know, which this particular color you don't see a whole lot. That's a little
I
bit
don't
of a
know
different
what you
color.
call that. Is that a magenta, maybe?
I'm not sure on color-wise, but it's close. This is what you usually see is the what I call the apple red.
They seem to just get full of buds, and then they pop open at
And then the more you fertilize too, you know, the more they bloom. So they're a good plant for this time of year.
Yeah.
Now I've got something to make for you, which we've got right here to go along with the birds.
Oh.
And this right here is a decorative type bird bath, or you can use it inside as a plant stand. You can take your pick on which one you want.
Oh, sure.
But it's very simply made. You can make them any size you want, you know, so you don't have to make them this big, or you can make them bigger. Just depends on your choice.
That's very attractive.
But what I've got
is.
right here, you start out first with the smaller type saucer and just turn it upside down.
Oh,
Okay. Then take a pot, depending on what size you want, and you'll just glue it down there with some liquid nails. Then the next pot, you turn up. This gives it that kind of hourglass
for
shape.
heaven's sake.
And I'll glue that down. And then this one here, glue it down. And see, that gives you a short one already. Okay, if you need a short bird bath or a short plant stand, then there's your saucer to go on top.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That's a simple way to do it.
Right, if you want it a little bit bigger, one more pot, and that gives you a little bit more height there, and then your saucer on top, and glue it all down with liquid nails.
And that looks great. It really does. Well, for heaven's sake. Clay pots, when you see them, you see something creative that everybody, I mean, gardeners do, see something more creative than we do.
Right.
Yeah.
And these two, once you get it put together with the liquid nails, it doesn't hardly come apart. That liquid nails just holds it together.
And they're pretty sturdy. It's hard to chip them and
Right, and then once you get them put together after the glue dries, then you just spray it with a clear sealer, and then you can pretty much spray them any color you want to. You know, so you can do colors of your choice depending on what you need to match.
Now, what is this behind us here?
This is also a type of geranium. This is your ivy geranium. And if you notice, it hangs down like ivy.
Now, this is an interesting variegated white interspersed with the color.
Right, there's two different color mixes in here because see you have the solid and then also the stripe. And these are just hardy plants.
Oh, really?
You know, so give them a little bit of fertilizer and they're fine.
Go down?
Yes, it'll continue to grow down like an ivy. You know, and she's got several colors there too.
Well,
so
it's full of buds.
Right, it's getting really ready to burst out because see, here's some more coming over there too. So you're going to get several different colors.
Well, now I notice up front you have some beautiful flowers here.
Right, now these are our Gerber daisies, which these are our perennial. You know, so that's one good thing about these is you plant them, and once you get them planted, then they'll come back every year, and they come in numerous different colors.
I've always been impressed with Gerbers by the foliage that goes with it. It's so rich, so much of it, beside the bloom, but they must require a lot of sun.
You don't want to give them full sun. Now, about a half-day sun is fine.
Really?
Right. In fact, my dad has them planted around the edge of his deck, which is pretty much almost all shade.
Oh.
You know, and they get just a little bit of
What
sun.
have we got out? What is this?
That is a type of thrift, and this is a perennial also. that you can plant every year.
I'm not familiar with that, but
You know.
that's very attractive.
But this is called a sea pink is what it's called. But it is a type of a perennial to
Yeah.
come back every year. So if you're planting, you know, if you don't want to plant every year, you just plant stuff like this. That way it
Yeah.
comes back and you don't have
It's
to worry
a very
about it.
dainty bloom, isn't it?
Right.
Small.
Now another thing this time of year is the hydrangeas, which are the big blooms right here.
Oh, uh-huh.
Okay, and they're just wonderful plants, and they grow into very good-sized bushes too.
And this is a popular color, I
Right.
notice. Yeah.
And you can change the color depending on what you do, because you can change color with lime, you know, and get them to be blue or pink depending on what you want, depending on the
Hydrangeas
pH of the
have always
soil.
been popular, I think, with most gardeners, home
Right.
gardeners, yeah. And they're pretty hardy, aren't they?
Yes, they're very hardy. They take a lot of water, so you have to
Yeah.
keep them wet.
That's interesting about plants, that some take water a lot and some you don't have to keep damp.
Just ignore them.
You just have to,
They tend to do better sometimes.
yeah, but you just have to know, you should know when you plant them
Right.
which is what.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Marty.
Okay.
You've given us some great ideas, and it's a time of the year that we all need to brighten up a little bit.
Makes you feel better too.
Okay, we'll
right.
see you. Okay, we'll be back.
From the jungles of Colombia
What do you think of this place? Don't even look at those guys unless you can kill them.
to the streets of Washington,
We're pursuing allegiance to his whereabouts.
That's him.
help me stop him. No one can stop a killer except the man who knows his face. No!
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you the next time. Until we do, I hope you stay happy. Now, here is a peek preview of Warner Brothers' new movie, Collateral Damage.
The Wolf has been linked to more than a dozen bombings in the last decade.
What's the damage?
2 dozen injured, 9 dead, a nurse and her little boy.
We have a civilian who says he saw the wolf.
Did you get a good look at him?
I talked to him.
The Wolf is back in Colombia, but you cannot take the law into your own hands.
Thanks for your advice.
From the jungles of Colombia
What do you think of this place? Don't even look at those guys unless you can kill them.
to the streets of Washington,
We're pursuing allegiance to his whereabouts.
That's him.
Help me stop him.
no one can stop a killer except the man who knows his face. No!
What's the difference between you and I? The difference is, I'm just gonna kill you.
From the director of The Fugitive, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Collateral Damage.